How we doing, everybody? DommyGun here. Welcome back to another edition of Beyond the Odds. It's a little betting workshop that we've been putting together for a while, and something we thought would help out a lot of the new bettors with all the new questions that we've been getting. And listen, in general, we just tons and tons of new bettors coming on board. So I've been working on this project for a while. Me and DJ did a episode last month, where we just like touched on all the general stuff and just getting new bettors acclimated on what some things they should watch out for, some traps and tips and stuff like that. You can always go back and watch it. We're gonna do like 4 or 5 of these, one a month, and then I'm gonna put together a whole series of just basically A to Z sports betting type of thing, and from there we'll take it from there. Now let me plug in here. Hold on a second. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. Okay. What we're going to do is, like I said, always technical difficulties, and most of them my fault. But what we're going to do is this month this tonight's show we're going to talk a little bit about where we left off last week with just a couple of tips and a couple of things. We'll see where the fellas think about some of the topics we talked about last time. And then we're just going about the MLB. It's all about MLB, first half, second half. Let's talk about it. Wide open year. I was just talking to Razor before we started, and it's a wide open a year this year. There's no dominant team. There's nobody that you could definitely say they're going to be there. I mean, we have our thoughts and stuff, but remember what happened last year, right? With those Philadelphia Phillies. So you just never know. But that's what we're going to go with. And then next month, we'll go into football. Before you know it, man, it's August. And, I love my MLB. I stick to it to the death. But, man, it's hard to compete when football starts, especially college and then the NFL. So, and a lot of changes in the NFL. It's going to be great. It's going to be a good sports season coming up. But anyhow, let's stick with tonight's show. And let me bring in two of our guests. One is RazorSharps Picks. What's up, Razor?
What's up, Dommy? How you guys doing tonight?
I am doing real good. Thank you for coming in. It's been a while since we talked. I know everybody's always so damn busy and stuff, but good to see you, man. Glad you joined us. Should be fun. And Big Ragu is in the back there. Let's bring him in. How you doing, Doc?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, perfect. I was having trouble with the mic too, starting up. Hey, Razor, how's it going, buddy?
Oh, gee, Mr. Ragu, how you doing, sir?
Always a pleasure to share the screen with you, and of course, yours truly, DommyGun.
And we got ConorMac will be back. He'll be joining us tonight. He had a little previous engagement with a radio show that he does. He has like a 10-minute thing that he has to take care of. But he'll be back, and we'll get his thoughts on the MLB and stuff like that, when he gets back. Like I was telling Razor, it's always tough with the scheduling, and everybody's always has something to do, and it's tough for what we do. But I always thought this is a good week that we get a little bit of a break. I didn't even watch the All-Star game. I watched the recap yesterday morning. So
I watched a little bit. I watched the Home Run Derby Monday night.
Yeah.
That, but yeah.
I heard about that first round. But my boy Pete ran into a buzzsaw, huh? Mm-hmm. That first round, he set a record, that kid, right? 40-something homers or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
and then
Connor said he's backstage. He's ready.
Oh, okay. How is he? Oh, there he is. He's on the bottom there. I didn't see that bottom pop in. This is why I always need DJ here for technical stuff.
Yeah.
There you are, brother. I didn't see it down there. They got 3 across and then 1 down. There we go. How you doing, Connor? Thanks for coming in, man.
Always great. Thanks for having me.
We did it last year, right, Connor?
Yeah, I like this.
Yeah.
Yearly
Sure.
thing. Get the second half of baseball.
Yeah, man.
I love baseball. So
yeah, me too. You're like me. I'm there to the death. When before we start with that, just a quick little thing. Last night, you seen that the the kid from the Bills, Hamill. You got the ESPYs. He got some kind of award last night. He showed up. It was a nice clip. If you get to see it, search the ESPN ESPYs last night. Daryl Hamill, right? That's his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. He. It was emotional, man. It was a pretty good clip to watch. I just noticed it before. So, and then just another mention is I just got a text from my boys who are out in Las Vegas. I told you guys about Khalid Moore playing. Has a little shot playing for the Knicks Summer League, and they just flew back into town. They just text me, and he has a game tomorrow night. I don't know against who, but he's so far
How's he
so
been
good.
doing?
Man. So far so good. I didn't get the numbers. I was trying to get his stats before the show, but those guys just text me that they landed. So I'm good friends with his uncle, and that's how I met him.
Great story, Dom.
Yeah.
I started doing a little bit of research too, after, looking at local kids. And I forgot to even mention this when I was on with you last Saturday, but we had a kid that go to the high school in the Villages, right next door to us. Trey Mann. He played at University of Florida. Now he's playing for Oklahoma. He's lighting up the scoreboard out there. And I think he's had like double 20 plus the last 3 games.
Wow.
So look out for that kid, Oklahoma Thunder, Trey Mann.
I love hearing these stories about these young kids coming up, and and a lot of them are just good kids too, man. They're good, hardworking kids. I know about this kid Khalid. I know he's in the gym, like shooting 500, jump shots at night when when the gym is everybody's gone. I know he does all that stuff. I'm sure not only him. I mean, you got to do that kind of stuff. You got to be dedicated. But anyhow, yeah, it's a good story. Hopefully, everything works out okay. Anyhow, let's get started with tonight. So last week, I keep on saying last week. Last week we did our first installment of Beyond the Odds Betting Workshop, and we touched about a lot of general things, and things that a lot of new guys are looking for information on how they should really get started. What are some of the traps? Some of just the basic general things, like I just talked a lot about different things, like just about discipline and having the discipline to, have a game plan and sticking to it and starting small and, don't make it straight bets. Don't be making all kinds of parlays and all these things that sound cool. Like I remember when I first started out, like reverses were like a big thing, and we were all playing these reverses and just round robins. I don't have to tell you guys, but anyhow, so I talked a lot about that, and I talked a lot about record keeping and how when I started really concentrating on keeping good records and which was probably like 5-6 years ago now, it really made a difference in my sports betting. 100%. Just looking back, you don't remember everything you do, especially when you're betting every day. And just something simple like that could make you into a better, a better sports bettor, and it did with me. So we talked about things like that. But I was wondering, like, if you guys had any things you would tell a new sports bettor, along those lines, or things they should watch out for, or things they should definitely be doing to start out. Like, Doc, do you have anything?
Oh man, where do we start?
Yeah. A couple general things. We might all agree on the same things,
Yeah, I mean the very, very basic thing, is number one is, we always hear about it. Even the pros, we get up and down about it. We talk about bankroll management and how to manage, how to start out with. So whether you're going to start out playing $10 a game, $100 a game, or just whatever your bankroll is, we always talk about betting the percentages on the units and whatnot. Like a 2 to 3% play should never be more than 4 or 5% of your bankroll. But baseball is a little bit different because it's not like football, or basketball. Baseball, it's odds adjusted. When you're talking about wins and losses, on the money line.
Yeah.
So, what you really need to do is just kind of simplify it and just, start out with a bankroll. Let's say it's $100 or $500, whatever it is, and bet like 2% of your bankroll on each play, and just try not to bet a heavy odds or too heavy of a favorite. Try to pick teams that are like minus 120 to minus 140 or plus 120, plus 130, and get comfortable in matchups. This way you kind of sharpen your handicapping too. And what I mean by sharpen your handicapping is looking at even pitching matches up to start out, not laying like Cole versus whoever.
Right.
Excuse me, man.
You're like
so
a number
now,
one.
when
Like
it
you don't want a number one
match
pitcher
up,
facing a number 5.
and take teams that are not too heavily favored, and just
Right.
start there, and then only bet like 2 or 3 games a day that way. Don't go in there thinking you're gonna go 12-2 or 13-2 for the day, where you want to start out betting like 2 to 3 games. Just play a couple games starting out, and then this way you have bankroll survival at the same time, and you get to get your feet wet with it. So play small price games, bet a low amount of games for a low amount of price till you get comfortable.
That's a Connor.
Yeah, we could go on here forever because talk to each
And that's
section. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you're right. You're 100% right.
Yeah, so all starting out, let's just go real quick to the bankroll. I mean, I think right away that's the beginning. You know what I mean? Because if you're a casual bettor, the parlays, that's what you can do. Like, you know what I mean? If that's your resource. But if you want to take it serious and win money at this, you have to have the bankroll. Because going back when I first started, before I was even 21, not even then, I was just doing whatever because I didn't have any thing like that. No bankroll. Right. Yeah, I would just put a couple $100 on parlays, and they would win, and they're gonna win, depending, if what you're looking into. But over the years, that gets better. That has to stop, obviously. And like you said, Doc, you have to get a percentage, 2%, 3% of your bankroll. So whatever it is, but I suggest you put a good amount into. And I'm not saying everyone's different. You can parlay what you want, especially if you're just casual and you want to do it. I always say, I don't bitch about anyone's bet. I like to go, or whatever they do. I don't love to go deep and on that. However you make your money, you can make it. And you were talking about big favorites. I know Razor doesn't do it too much. I don't think he's regular taking I know he doesn't take favorites, but a run line, even. He's not taking -1.5s. So I think there's discipline to that. And other handicappers do. Some of these guys don't mind the run line. I still, right, in situations, will use it in baseball. I don't love to do it as much, but when a team's, say, a -200 favorite and you get an even money on the run line, I'll go that way, something like that. But I try to cut that out, especially if we're talking about baseball. And baseball, to me, is the most intricate handicap. So look at everything. I go with the weather, the umpire, everything, this, that, trends, where the money is, everything. Razor can get into that. I'll let him get into how he does that. But I do all of it, especially with baseball. And it can be such a success, and you can get into ruts. I mean, this year, let me just talk about this. Baseball has been nothing but good to me, except the last week right before the break, and I got my ass whipped.
Happens every year.
Yeah, talk about it all the time.
I said it the last 2 weeks before the break, man.
Yeah,
I know, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. But the last couple days were good, I have to say. The last 2 days, but yeah, I went through a stretch where I just hadn't had those days. Usually, if I had it somewhat all right day, it just come back, right? We don't rule, but I had a nice little 4 or 5 days where it was rough, and I had that all year. But I'm ready for the second half. We'll get on to that later. We could go more and more, but I'll let Razor roll.
Go ahead, Razor.
We'll get into more stuff if you want to about sites, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, go ahead, Razor. I was just wondering what his thoughts were on that subject.
Yeah, for me, the biggest thing to tell a new bettor would be don't force anything. There's tons of game every single day, all different sports. Not just baseball, but usually have 8 baseball games a day at least. And then the next day you're going to have another 8. So for me, the biggest thing to a new sports bettor would be don't force action. If you want action, go play the slot machine. But if you're actually here to win money, then I wouldn't force anybody.
Yeah,
no, that's great. That's great.
That's so true.
That's good advice. And I was just talking about baseball, but to Razor's point, you get in the month. It depends on what time of the year you get it. We get a new player coming on board or someone that takes interest in betting sports. So right now it's the boys of summer, right? We got the lull. There's nothing going on but baseball. But when September, October, November, even November comes around, you got all four major sports going. So
Right.
and you can pick and choose, like Razor says. You can go batshit crazy, but you don't want to do that because if you're just starting out, you don't want to have a ton of volume will kill your bankroll over time. It's just like when you're sitting at the blackjack table. If you sit there and keep playing over and over and over, eventually the house is going to win. So what you got to do to eliminate the house edge is you got to manage the bankroll, and then like Razor says, don't go crazy.
That's it. That's all. They were all important things. And when I talk about discipline, it runs into that subject of discipline runs into every part of it. But very important. Man. All those things are important. I'll tell you, a lot of people starting out, and kind of you touched on it. And I know it took me a few years. I didn't always have a bankroll. And let's face it, everybody talks about bankroll, but how many people really start out saying, "I'm going to start sport betting now, and I got $2,000 I'm going to put aside, or 500, or whatever the hell the number is." But
True.
a lot of times people ain't. Yes, that's what you should do. But in theory, that's not really happening. But a good way, what I did isn't really the optimal way. But little by little, I had the discipline, and I was just added, and built up a bankroll. And then it got up to a certain amount, and then I added to it. When I felt comfortable. But let's face it, everybody's not starting out with a bankroll. I tell a lot of people there's no shame in betting $20 a game, $25 a game. When I decided to take this stuff seriously, and it was about 7 years ago, and within that next year, luckily is when I found everybody, Jimmy, Pete, all you guys. It's when we started, getting together, and that was perfect for me because that's when I was really, I sold my business. I had more time. I was going to start sports betting a little bit more, and I jumped all the way down from a guy who would just throw 100 or 200 on the game because I'm going to it, or because we're sitting in the office and it's Sunday and we're betting games, or Saturday after a job we're in the office betting college games, crap like that. Like everybody, most people do it that way. But then when I started taking it serious, I dropped it down to $25 a game. That was my first. I stayed there all through that year and through like half of that second year before I started raising it up. And I only went up to 35 a game, and then 50. And little by little, I've been adding to it. And that was my approach. And another, just to add to that, it's because that's what my bankroll allowed. Listen, if you got the money aside and you got that bankroll, that really could determine on how you want to bet, too. You could go after some of those favorites. You could play those parlays, like you said. If you got that, that money that, or if you're on a big winning streak and you built up your bankroll, you could take some shots,
Exactly.
But, but, it's a slow and steady game, man, and it's tricky. But it's a lot of fun. And, Doc, what were you going to say?
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No, it's okay.
Like you were saying, you would be sitting in the office and you want to bet the game, because you're there just to have something on it. And that's what I think the casual bettor is going to start out doing, is he's going to bet like his favorite team, or he's going to bet. Those are the pitfalls you have to avoid.
Yes.
When you're trying to learn how to become a sports bettor, when you become a casual bettor, but if you're going to get serious about sports betting, and we keep going back to discipline, we want to talk about the bank.
The fan goes out too.
You gotta figure it out as you go. You know what I mean?
And now when you go to games, you can bet the games at the game. They have like little booths you can go to, place bet.
They got it figured out.
The line during the game. It's crazy.
Yeah,
oh yeah, it's a whole different ball game than rushing to the phone to get, because the office was only open till 6 o'clock at night, and
the thing is, you got the leagues that are partners with the sports books now. Too.
Oh yeah, now it's a whole different ball game. Now it's a whole different ball
back
game.
then when we started out, it was more like a taboo thing. We couldn't talk about it.
No,
all the major networks talking about it, so it's wide open. So, and people are going to try to. They have more resources today to educate themselves. Just to get just enough information to get in a little bit of trouble. But at the same time, they can use that information, obviously, to their advantage. And, watch guys like us come on here and talk about, the pitfalls that we've went through and try to avoid and going forward, what we try to do. Because we're always trying to improve our angles and
100%
on these sports bets. And, with the prop markets being as big as they are now and all the live betting that's going on, I mean, there's more ways than Sunday that they can get your money. So you got to stay on top of your game just a little bit.
Yeah, that's for sure. I was shocked on the amount of people that really started betting that never bet before just because it became legal. I mean, even in the New York area, I was shocked. I didn't think it was going to change that much. I'm like, everybody already bets, and I was so wrong. these kids were flocking to, when it just was New Jersey, there's stories of, like my daughter works in the city in Manhattan. She goes, those guys that she works with were going on the train, which is like 3 stops to New Jersey, jumping on the train, going to 3 stops at their lunch hour, getting off the train, and once you get into New Jersey on the train station, you could bet on the phone. Then you couldn't do it in New York, and they were doing that just to put bets in. And I'm like, what? There's
like
still a bookie on every corner in New York. But anyhow, moving on.
Right, Noli used to drive to the state line and put
Right.
his ass and then go back.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure there's plenty of stories of that. I'm sure Razor has a few stories in there. But as far as just to wrap up this thing, we talked a little bit. Me and DJ talked a little bit because a lot of people ask me about that, like doing their research, what sites they should use, what sites did I use, what things that do I follow, and I always put it as, if you're somebody new, I think you should be, like starting slow, starting a little general, and I always come up with covers for that reason, because to me, it's the first one I ever heard about, by the way, back in the 90s. It's the first one I ever heard about. And it's still to this day a decent site. It's general. It tells you everything you want to know. Actually, now, over the last few years, they've gotten a little bit better as far as information for guys like us that do it every day. But I always recommend that for a new better. As far as me recommending like Baseball Reference or StatCast, that gets like a little involved, and I don't think a new better should get maybe wait a little bit before you. But I was wondering if you guys had any sites, And another thing before that, I always tell new guys, don't pay for no stuff like no sites and stuff. Wait a minute, get used to searching, get used to what you should search for, and then you could get into maybe paying for something, or that way. Anybody have any thoughts on that? Razor, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I use a couple different sites. I do use covers. I like to use ESPN for stats as well. Whatever sport I'm capping, I like to use that site directly. So like MLB.com, NFL.com, things like those. I also use Action Network. Another one I've used for a very long time is DonBest.com.
I was going to mention that
for me,
especially my college. That's I use a
definitely.
ton. College football and basketball. Yep.
Right. And the last one I use for odds is pregame.com. They show reverse live movement, things like that. So I use pregame as well.
That's one I didn't know about. Pregame.com. That's one I didn't know about for sure.
It's been around.
Those are a few that I use. Some of those I use, but again, some of those for a new better are better than others, and that was my point. Because some get a little, but I also like those EV analytics I use. I like it. I think it shows some good stuff. I was a VEASAN subscriber for a long time. Up until this year, I was. I recently didn't renew my subscription for the first time in probably 4 years, but they were pretty good, And still, there's a couple other ones, but Connor, which ones do you use? Or do you think a new better should like covers is perfect for a new guy? ESPN, perfect. Those kind of sites without that Yahoo Sports maybe.
Yeah, you mentioned all those, and depending on the sport, like MLB.com is good, MLB Savant, RotoWire, any of these, they help you out, especially the general ones, even like Fangraphs. You mentioned VEASAN, Action, all those. And like Razor mentioned, when I get to college, I really, Don Best has always been one I've used for years.
Because of the lines that he puts 15. Out and stuff, and all the
injuries on college, just the little nuances they have a little bit deeper than some of these sites.
Right, Doc. How about you?
Yes, same. Ditto on a lot of that stuff. With Don Best, and one I like to do, like you said, like Connor mentioned, RotoWire. Like for baseball lineups and stuff like that, you can see projected lineups. Once you start getting into the intricate side of breaking down games and learning how to, how your handicap comes out, what handicap and lineups. And like you said, the EV analytics is a good one, Dom, too. And then Swish Analytics. I know our guy Jimmy talks about that one. That's a pretty decent one, to get some
It's good for the weather,
weather
for
report.
sure.
Yeah, that's
that
the
Yeah.
weather only for me.
Fangraphs
Yeah, me too.
is a real interesting one, but that's maybe a little too complicated to start out with because there's a lot
I
of
agree.
analytical data. But to make it real simple, I used to use an old odds page. It was called scoresandodds.com.
Oh yeah,
And they would show you back in those days. They would kind of track, the different casino line movements, that type of thing. So you could whatever. I think they were tied in with Bet Chris at one time when the line first came out. So they would show like a real soft opening number, and then you can track the line movements. And then good thing about that, they give you like matchup data, kind of like Covers does. Past history, and then you can even go to Baseball Reference if you're going to bet baseball. Baseball Reference kind of gives you all the team stats, the individual player stats. So if you want to, like I say, if you're picking out, starting out with one sport specific, then you can go there. Then another one would be team rankings. Like if you're going to get into football, basketball.
I found that one this year over college basketball. It was the first time. I remember telling you, and you were surprised. I never knew about team rankings for some reason.
Yeah, team rankings are good.
And yeah, I liked it. It really helped with college basketball.
Yeah,
that was for sure.
And they give you a lot of breakdowns on team stats as far as, like when you, especially like you're getting into football. I mean, there's, third down conversion rates, offense versus defense, the whole line. So you want to get real intricate with that kind of stuff, you can. But to really dumb it down, I would say Covers is great, Scores and Odds is great, and then some of the stuff that Razor and Connor were touching on, with the RotoWire and Don Best. Don Best is a staple in the industry. He's been around for forever and a day, so you can't go wrong with Don Best Sports either.
Yeah, Doc, they've been around. Talk about, I would say Covers have been around forever. Don Betts is the first thing I ever heard of.
Don Best used to mail you the sheets in the mail. He used to order those, remember? They give you like all the lineup for the sport for the year, so you know who is playing, 2 months from now on what day.
Oh, that's funny, man. Funny. Shout out to the chat. Is that DJ with the Hoop Banging Sports Talk? I guess that's DJ. Verl Video, always in the house. Let's see. Faux Patashi, you got to reveal yourself. EQ, Nasty, how you doing, Nasty? Tease.
He was breaking our chops last Saturday. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. No, the other guy was breaking out chops.
Oh, that wasn't him.
Perky, the guy Perky.
Okay, my bad. I
Remember? Yeah, remember Perky?
Made fun of our
Perky,
accent.
some crap. He was breaking out chops about Razor. Imagine this guy telling us that we have an accent. Who the hell does he think he is?
He's from New York.
So our boy Connor had to go take care of something. He'll be back in about 10 minutes. He has a radio spot that he's doing. He's another. You guys are up and coming stars, man. You guys, I love seeing you guys coming up and just knocking everybody dead, man. And Razor, you've been doing it, man. And shout out to RazorSharps picks. Cash it, baby. And how was your first half, Razor?
Gambler's first glance. Always
That's
pay
it.
attention when you see that coming across the screen. And
That's
of course,
right.
Razor does the shout out to Razor and his horse shows
That's
on
right.
the daily grind with that. That's a special talent right there. I can tell you that right now.
That's a tough
one
one.
horse player to another, and I totally admire his savvy and love for the game too.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it was a big day in horses. Saratoga opening day today.
Oh, today was the opening day. Wow.
Yeah, opening day was today at Saratoga, and next Friday is opening day at Del Mar.
Del Mar, yeah.
So the big tracks are starting to run, so it's a great time to get on board. But yeah, you can tune in to Racing with Razor. I do it Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern. So it's a fun time, and you guys are always welcome.
You can do that.
First half of baseball.
First half was okay for me. I had a winning record, but I was down a little bit of units. My gambler's first glance plays were money. But for some reason, I can't get these smaller plays to win. I need to stop betting small plays and just stick with my $300, $400 plays. But man, these $200 plays for me have been struggling lately. But it's how MLB goes for me. Honestly, I usually don't do good in the first half of the MLB season.
Right.
I don't know why. I'm big on reverse line movement. So I don't know if it just takes a little bit of time for that stuff to kick in. But baseball, honestly, is not my best sport. Baseball is probably about my fourth sport. But it's the hardest to me. It's no spreads or anything. It's just money lines. Lines are very high sometimes. It's hard to beat lines. I don't like to go higher than 140 if I'm betting a
Yeah,
favorite.
that's me too.
So baseball is tough for me. Baseball
Yeah.
is one of the toughest sports. I have a winning record. It's just because of the juice, and sometimes MLB's hard, and I'm down a couple units.
It's such an important point too. I tell people that it's not just picking winners. It's handicapping and gambling. You need to be a good gambler, and you need to learn how to handicap. But you need how to make those bets the right way, when to make them, what sizing and all that matters. And it's a perfect example of what you said, a winning record. But the units ain't there, which is what we all what we all really
Yeah, for
want
me,
to be.
I got killed with the bullpens. Bullpens killed me. I'm not a big first five better,
Yeah.
but I need to. I've been trying to track my bets recently, and I'd be up money if I did first five. So I'm definitely going to take a look into it and keep.
Do it. Now that you
Yeah.
see, perfect example, like Dom was saying, keeping track of what you play. You go back, now you make the adjustments, and then
Exactly.
hopefully those trends continue for you in the second half, and then you cash it.
Yeah, so
How
that's
about
my
you?
plan going into the second half is to play a lot more first fives.
Yeah.
Okay, see, and that's what your records are showing you, and that's that's valid, man. Listen, for me, it's the opposite, and this year I've been playing the less first fives than ever. But again, like you said, maybe it's the way we cap. We all look at coming out from different ways and different angles, and just. Maybe it's just the way we cap. I come up with more winners with a full game than the first five. You come up with more winners on the first five than the full game. For whatever reason, and it's an interesting concept, to figure out why. But how about you, Doc? Your first half, you were a little up and down. You
My
said.
first half was a little subpar, I would call it. I know I've been doing every other Wednesdays with Jim, and it's the first time I had a losing record on a show this season.
Yeah.
I mean, since I've been doing this for the past 6 years, but
Yeah.
that's
No, I
not to
know.
say
I know.
it's a marathon, not a sprint. So, but overall, my record's better than what it is on the show. But I'm down a few units. I'm probably down about a little over 7 units for the season, which is not too bad. Like,
Gotcha.
and I usually start real slow too. Like my Aprils are not really good, but I started out a little better because Tampa helped me out because I like to play Tampa. I follow that team real close. Anything in the AL East, I usually follow close. But whatever I made on Tampa, I lost on Toronto because they beat the shit out of me too this year. Toronto Blue Jays. I think I won one bet with them maybe in about 13 tries. But anyways, but to answer and to Razor's point, I'm more of a first five guy because there's a lot of bullpens. We know some of the bullpens, and this is a great example of the ebbs and flows of the game. Number one, baseball is very volatile to start out with, okay? And then, when you have injuries early in the season and you have players, like especially on the pitcher side, some teams can carry their pitching a little better, with their lineups, and certain teams can't. And certain teams are built to score a few more runs and be a little more volatile in the pitching end of things. So, like, we had some surprises early on. We had Pittsburgh that came out of the gate real hot. We had the D-backs that came out really hot. And then there's nobody hotter than the Rays. So we kind of expected the Rays to be good, but not that good to start out with. And, of course, the Rangers. Rangers
Right.
kind of blindsided a bunch of people early on too. But as you looked at going into the break, you see, like, the teams that really start out hot kind of fizzle out towards the last 2 weeks of the season. Like
Yep.
the Rangers, they wound up going like 3-7. I think the Rays wound up losing like 6-7 games in a row. So, these bigger price, I call them bigger price teams, depending on the matchup. The teams that are doing well are kind of, you're trying to get to the break, just like we are as gamblers. We got to take a breather every now and then. And the same thing happens, the ebbs and flows of the games. That's just it. So my probably my money makers have always been like first five, plus or minus a half a run. I always try to stay within that minus 120 to plus 120 range.
Right.
That's where I like to live. So I have better percentage of that. But I did dive into the prop markets a little bit this year with the pitching, the K props, which last year I did a little bit. Like if I come up with like one a day, and if there's nothing there to go after, that's within. The problem with the props, they're juiced high. Okay, so like I don't want to lay over 130 on the prop. So there's sometimes I get a plus money with a pitching prop, and I add like a half a K or something like that. So I don't do a lot of those, but that's something I like to look at. Depending upon the lineups, and that's where going in and looking at these lineups and seeing like past history with pitchers and against those typical hitters, and it all plays into the ebbs and flows because if a team is in a funk, I don't care if you got a murderer's row lineup from top to bottom. If the team's not playing well, and this guy's own this team, the lineup is on that pitcher like the last 4 or 5 times they face him. Mark my words, that pitcher's going to go out and throw a gem, and you're going to go off at the price will probably be adjusted down a little bit, but that's a good betting opportunity to take the dog. So another tip I want to give out: don't bet against a streak. In other words, if you got a team that's lost 6, 7 games in a row, don't bet that team to win. Either stay away from them, or don't play into them. Play the opposite team that they're playing if the other team's like on a 3-game winning streak. So, and that's what I like to do too. That's another angle that usually works good for me.
Don't catch a falling knife, right?
Yeah, catch a falling knife or catch the end of a rocket. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes you get burnt. Trying to get a team that's won. Let's face it, these streaks they don't last forever. So, a good streak in baseball is like 4 or 5 games. So after the second game, I start perking a little bit of interest up. 3 games, then you start looking real hard there. Then you might catch 7 to 8 games, something like that.
They happen a lot. A lot of them happen. A lot of them happen.
It doesn't happen too many times. But listen, if you win a series, usually you'll make money with that team. So if you think a team's got a good shot to win a series, and and they're a moderate price team, so they go in there, they go in a 3-game series or 4-game series. If they split and they're the favorite, you lose money. If they're the underdog, they split, you win money. If they're a small favorite and they take 2 out of 3, you win money. So that's what I'm going to start focus on that in the second half, because I know I think who was it? I think the A's, right? The A's. I mean, the A's, you're always going to get big plus money, but if you bet against them, I think they won like 1 series out of the whole season. Like going in before the All-Star break, like about 2 weeks before, they were like 1-17 in the season.
They had that little flutter there, that little flutter of winning a couple games, and everybody started thinking they found fool's gold, basically. Minus 248 run differential, the old Oakland Athletics. Unbelievable.
That's another thing I look at. And you get that off the MLB site. You get the run differential.
Yeah, there they have it. Yep. Yes, they do.
How I think the first half played out as far as expectation with the league itself. I think a lot of these teams, we're talking with the ebbs and flows. Like the Braves have probably been the most consistent team. I didn't see the Braves really hit those skids. Where they, if they're winning like let's say a high 60s percentile, close. Let's say 7 out of 10 games consistently. Their record reflects that, and they score a lot of runs. And then the Yankees, the American League East, all the teams have winning records, and the Yankees are like 1 game from the basement, with a winning record. And I think Boston's down there too. And then then you have the AL Central. We have a team that's barely 500 that's in first place. You know what I mean? So it just depends on where you're at, and then it's going to be a race to the pennant like it always is. You'll probably see the Dodgers come on strong late, and probably 2 teams out of the East, probably another 2 or 3 teams out of the East in the National League, 2 or 3 teams out of the East in the American League, and then your division winners in the other leagues.
Yeah. We'll go over that in a little bit. If Connor should be back soon. For me, I had a better first half than usual. I had a really good first half last year. The few years before that were all either down or break even, and then I had good second halves. Last year I had a really good first half, and I kind of coasted through the second half. I went just about 500 in the second half. So last year I just rested on what I did in the first half, and it was because of streaks. I was on that there was a Mets first five under 4.5 that was just gold. It just kept on hitting and hitting and hitting, and it was just one of those things that before you knew it, I rattled off 10 games, and then I hit another streak. Like you were talking about, it was just the way it is. Now this year, I ended up being up almost 20 units for the first half.
Great.
The Lighted Up show, I went 30-16, so I did well with Lighted Up. We had a couple good days on that, but we'll see now what happens in the second half because it's going to be tricky this year. As far as for me, what I was looking at in the first, a couple things there's one team you left out, Doc, that was surprised me, and I'm sure maybe surprised the Reds.
Oh, Cincinnati, yeah,
the Reds.
Yeah,
the Reds really surprised me. We could talk a little bit about them later. But they're a good team. I mean, they got the bats. You know, it always comes down to pitching at the end. But they surprised me a little bit. The Mets, you know what? They surprised me on. I didn't think they were going to come out of the gate and be a juggernaut. I did not think that at all. I know a lot of my fellow Met fans thought so. I thought coming into the season we had problems with our pitching staff from the jump. Diaz getting hurt was just a mental blow to the team as it is. Was just, you know, it was a big blow. And let's face it, but they surprised me on how bad they just have done. They had a June that is maybe the worst June, maybe in their history, but definitely the worst June if I can remember that they have played.
Things you hate to see.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm sure it broke your heart. The Pirates, I didn't think were going to last. They don't have the pitching, but they didn't. The Pirates remind me of last year's Baltimore Orioles in a way. You know, like that kind of team where they're getting there. You can see the improvement, but another team that needs pitching. The Orioles, I still like. Every time I think they're going to be out of it, they come back and you know, their pitching is a little bit better. They got a couple good arms there. It'd be nice for them to. We'll see what happens with the next 2 weeks with trades. But that the Orioles we thought would have an improvement, and they did. Tampa Bay I thought was a surprise. I didn't see their pitching staff coming together like that. And now lately their bullpen hasn't been great. But I listen. They got a plus 149 run differential. I mean, you know, they're winning. They're 58-35. You know, they're the only ones close to the Braves. They got a 624 winning percentage, and the only other person yet in the league that has a higher one are the Braves, 674. So, you know, the Blue Jays are surprising me that they're not playing better. The Mets are surprising me they're not playing better. You know, the Astros, the Dodgers, you always feel that they're going to come back in it, but. One team that I didn't think was that is starting to play a little bit better and better, and then I'll have to give this over to Razor, are those Philadelphia Phillies that we both have backed together a few times now, and Philadelphia's a sneaky team. Razor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is their time to shine. They normally don't have a winning record in the first half, so to have a winning record, I think they're like 6 or 7 games above 500. So that's a win for me.
Yeah, 48-41. Yeah.
Also, Connor is backstage as well.
Oh, good. Okay, thanks.
For me, the biggest surprise in the MLB was there's two. The Orioles, I didn't think they were going to be as good. They were plus 6,600 to win the whole thing. So I didn't think they had a chance, but they're playing very good ball. And the opposite way, who I thought was going to be good, but who was trash, that's the San Diego Padres. On paper,
the Mets West.
They should win the World Series, but I think they have a losing record, and they're paying millions and millions of dollars to watch their team lose. So that's the biggest surprise for me: the Orioles winning and the Padres losing.
Padres 43-47 are the Padres. Yeah.
Hey, can I give you a surprise team also?
Go ahead.
The Marlins. And reason
they had a really good first half, the Marlins. Do they have the pitching to keep it up?
Shoemaker, however you pronounce his name, the manager. A lot of head scratching stuff he did with the lineup early on, and I was like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. This, you know, what's going on down in Miami. But I mean, they had, and then Sandy, having a bad year, on the bump, Cy
Right.
Young, Leonard Sandys,
Uh-huh.
and then but they had good arms, Lasardo, Garrett, they got some good young arms on the team, and they got rid of Lopez, went up to Minnesota, so I was like, well, this team's going to be trash. New manager, new clubhouse, everything new. They came out and they held it down. They got good, and they were good at home. See, that was a big thing, and they were hitting right-handed pitching, which is 80% of what you're going to see is going to be right-handed pitching in the league anyway. So,
Right.
but the thing is, like you said, their run differential for a second place team, they're in negative territory. So
Yeah,
that's
no,
gonna
minus 5. Yeah.
the minute
Yeah.
the minute they're pitching like that, a little bit, it's going to show big time. So, but that was
30
my
and 18.
question with Marlins.
30 and 18 at home. So you're right, man. They had a really good home record. They've done well for me in Miami. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if they have the pitching. Sandy, even though he's still young, he's always pitched a lot of innings, and it seems to maybe affect them this year.
Yeah, seven on average.
I feel like and we'll find out what Connor thinks about the first half, but I feel like the new rules really affected the veteran pitchers, the pitchers that are around for a long time. And if you look, it's something I've been following from the beginning. And if you notice, the last 3 or 4 starts, a lot of these pitchers started pitching a little bit better, started getting better wins. The Nolas, the older pitchers. It was going to take them 8 to 10 starts to start getting acclimated with these kids that came up the last few years. They had a little experience in the minor leagues with the clock and stuff. I really think that affected a lot of pitchers to
That's a
start
great
out.
point.
But kind of about we were talking about the first half. What went on? Like, did you think in the first half that was maybe surprised you, or some things that you thought was pretty much what was going to happen team wise?
Okay. Shout out, as always, to the chat. Hit the like button. AT33NC. What's up,
That's our
my
boy
dude?
Avery. That's our boy Avery, Connor.
Hey,
I know. He says, keep an eye on the White Sox.
Yeah, he
I
always
like
says.
it.
I'm still waiting for that, man. Don't worry about it.
I know. You know what a little like, though? Put a little money on. Luis Robert. He's right now. Otani's got, 32 homers? He's at 26. But he's 25-1. So maybe put a little money on him, most home runs. And
Yeah.
I thought that was a little bit intriguing. If he could stay healthy.
Matt
who
Olson's
knows
in
with
between
Ohtani.
them. Yeah,
Yeah.
Matt Olson's in between him with 29. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so Luis Robert, get it. Ramon Scott, Tease, everyone here, Gerald Jones, V Video, my dude, everyone as always, Nasty Nate. This first half, just the Reds,
Yep.
Red Machine, young kids, the pitching hold up. We can get to that here in the second half because the ERA is huge. But I think there'll be some pains. But Mets, Pods, Cardinals, I wrote. What happened? What are these teams? Just not very good. Can they turn around? All this money, especially with the Mets and Padres. Ugly.
Mirror teams, right? Am I wrong? They remind me of so much of each other. They got the talent is all over their ball clubs, and they're all
Yeah.
underperforming. All of them.
Yeah, it's
All of
rough. Rough to watch. AL, I'll go quick. Rangers.
Go ahead.
What do we have here? I think they lost 16 of 23 right before the break.
Yeah, a
And
little surprising.
a little bit, but I thought it was going to come. I thought maybe it'd be on the back half. It kind of happened before the break. Maybe they get another system. Still don't love their starting pitching. I mean, maybe they make the playoffs. I think it could be close with them in the end. And then I put Orioles. I just surprised. Jays mediocre. Red Sox definitely a 500 team. I know they're like 4 or 5 games over 500, but I still think they're 500 ball club. Yankees, it's all up to Judge. Obviously, news he's coming back here right away. We will see with Judge.
We'll see.
Yeah, and the Orioles, can they continue? I love this team. I love this team last year. I thought their over win total, whatever it was, 76.5. I mean, I love that before the year. And now it's at 90. And I still think with all these kids that they could get over 90. And that's at even money, 90.5. I mean, I don't know if they're going to win 98 games. That'd be crazy. But I think they could. I think they're just better than teams like the Jays. Yeah, Red Sox. So
Wow.
that I've looked at that yesterday, a little bit today. I don't know if I bet that, but I was just kind of looking at it.
No, some definitely some good pick. Texas Texas. They, I mean, they just were on fire for so long. Even with this last 2 weeks being terrible, they still got a 148 run differential.
Yeah.
Still 27-18 at home. DeGrom went down right away. They didn't. Now maybe the effects are starting to show. But I just like the way they just kept on coming on and on. But lately, it's been a little bit surprising. 3-7 their last 10. So
Ebbs and flows.
Ebbs and flows. They come out of the break with a series at home versus the Guardians. That's a team that they're dead even, 45-45. That's Central.
Yeah.
Then Minnesota's
It's like last
45 and 46. Yep.
The Twins ran hot early.
I don't think they have the pitching though this year. I don't see
Ultimate mediocrity.
Yes.
That division, the Guardians, the Twins. Just talking about them always makes me sick. When we do, I'm always like, fuck. But
yeah, no, I hear you. As far as you touched on the Yankees and Judge, is it amazing that a player like Judge just means so much to a team like the Yankees? It shouldn't. The Yankees got a lot more good players than just Judge. I mean, Judge is, of course, a top player, but just surprising how they didn't play well at all. But then you see some signs of life the last 2 weeks when they kind of heard that like Judge might have. There was talk now that he might even be gone till the end of the year at one point. I think they started playing better when they started realizing maybe he wasn't walking back through the door. Now, of course, I know there's rumors that he might come back quicker. Who knows? They love throwing out the rumors. But the Yankees are still, as bad as, it looks like they played, they're really still in the thick of things. They're only a game out of the wild card, I guess, 49-42, and they come out of the break with a favorable, they go to Colorado and play coming out of the break. So that's not a bad thing. Baltimore, we mentioned them. They stay home and they play the Marlins. So that's a series right out of the gate that should be good. The Mets are at home. The Dodgers are in town. The Mets are 2 or 3 series away from being done for the year. If the Mets lose these next 2 series, I will be.
I think it's same with the Pods. Like you were talking about,
I think you're right.
Both teams. Like I think they could run with like 4 good series or so, but it could really just dump.
All right, so let's and I'll start with Razor. Let's talk about a team that's just to me is the weirdest team there is. Usually about this time of year is when they start faltering. But they're supposed to have the 2 best players in baseball. One's hurt for the next 4 to 6 weeks. One is a free agent at the end of the year. They keep on talking about him getting traded. The old Otani. The Angels. Razor, what should the Angels do, Razor? Should they get what they can for Otani right now? Try to trade him? And I mean, it's a rental for a team. But or do the Angels actually have a shot? And, they're not too far out of it, believe it or not, the way they played. Should they? I don't think they're going to make Otani an offer as a free agent. But tell me, Razor, what you think about the Angels? And 5 games out only of the wild card as it stands now.
The Angels better give him whatever he wants. Unless they want the stadium to be empty, they got to pay him. That's the reason the seats fill up is because of him. And the whole Japanese country shows up for every game he plays at home.
Yeah.
So for me, I think you got to pay him.
I mean, they talking. Now today, Buster only put out he shot his mouth off and said that the team that will be the most aggressive will be the Yankees. Which personally, I don't see him coming to the East Coast. To be honest, and. As far as the Yankees are concerned, like if they took him, what do they do with what do they do with a guy like Stanton? Stanton becomes kind of obsolete if you think about the Yankees and how they are. Like as far as of course they've talked about it with the Mets, but that's the last place he's going to go, and it's not even a good fit for the Mets because what would the Mets have to give up? The Angels are going to want Alvarez, that's for sure. So we ain't giving him up. the Yankees, they're probably going to want Volpe or if the Yankees went for a trade right now, they would have to give up 4 good prospects to get him as a rental, and then hopefully he'd want to stay. You know,
Exactly.
So
That's the whole thing here. Is like
the
you
whole
really
Ohtani
want to
thing is
give up.
tough.
Yeah, so many prospects. These teams, especially if you're only going to get a rental, like a team like the Yankees. Like if they did that,
Right.
you give up all that, and you got to. Will he sign? Could you
Right.
sew him
That's the
up?
whole thing.
It's tough.
I mean, there's some teams that could really use him. As far as his pitching, my whole thing with him is how long is he going to be able to pitch and hit? And he's only a DH. You don't have a fielder, so
29 years old.
you know how long is this going to be going on? I mean, it's great what we've seen is we'll never see again probably, but how long is it going to go
He's
on?
going to be a Dodger. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, that's what's going to happen, I would assume. But a team, could just think about it. Like we talked about the Reds, and we talked
already
about
cleared out.
Baltimore, and we talked about the Rangers. Those are 3 teams that if they had a guy like they need a bat and they need a pitcher, you know, he would never go to any of those teams. That's for sure. But
They cleaned their house up. The Dodgers did. You know, they let Anderson go, Heaney go.
They made room last year, and this year they made some room.
Martinez and let
That's
Turner
right.
leave, so
That's right.
they're getting ready for the cha-ching because it's going to be 6 large plus. Coming,
I agree.
that way.
I agree. It's going to be he's going to want right. He's going to want that 8-10 year deal like everybody else got, and they're going to want the big money. But
I don't think the rental thing is going to happen. I really don't. I think
no, I mean but I guess on the Angels' way of looking at it is then they get nothing for him, right?
Yeah, that's true.
That's the whole thing. It's
Yeah.
like
You
if
know?
you're not gonna get it, like you make that move because that's the shit. If you
You got
for
4
the
young
Angels.
good. Someone mentioned the other. It was A-Rod. He mentioned the other day that the Angels should get rid of. They should do it with Trout and Ohtani, and with those 2 players, you got to figure you're going to get 8 players back, and at least 3, maybe 4, are going to be top notch players, and it makes sense what he's saying. It does
that'd
make
be huge.
sense. You know, like you could get 2 big time pitches for and a couple good prospects. But anyhow, well, let's hit the second half a little bit. Think about what
Hey,
we.
Gene Autry's
go
got
ahead.
to come out from the dead and get on his horse.
yeah,
Start robbing
exactly.
banks.
And start robbing banks is right. That's so true,
Avery
man.
would like that one.
That's for sure. Second half of baseball is coming up. Starts tomorrow. 72 games about left. You know, it's not the true. We know it's not the true first half, but it's what we all like to call the first half. We talked about it before. The Braves have been playing solid ball. It'd be hard for them to, not to be in it at the end. Same with Tampa Bay. If the playoffs started tomorrow, you would have, first of all, we have the 2 top division winners in each league get the bye for the division series. Then the other 4 teams play each other in the best of 3 of the wild card. The highest seed hosts all 3 games. So those are the rules. Right now in the National League, the 3 teams that are ahead, the Dodgers, the Braves, and the Reds. So as it stands now, the Reds would lose out by like 1 game of getting the bye. They're like, Dodgers are 51-38, Cincinnati's 50-41. So, but as far as wild cards, and in the American League it'd be Tampa, Texas, and Cleveland. Believe it or not, would be the 3rd one. And then there's a couple teams that aren't far, like Houston and Toronto are even for the wild card. They're no games behind. The Yankees are only 1 game behind the wild card. Seattle Mariners, a team we didn't talk about really, is 4 games back. And the Angels are only 5 games back, which is pretty. And so is the Orioles. The Orioles and the Angels are both 5 games, and Minnesota, all 5 games back. So Seattle's a team we didn't talk about. A tricky team. Their pitching's getting a little bit better and better. There might be a team to watch out for. But as the way it looks now, even with, like I said, the Braves, would be hard for them to not be where they are. They basically just got to almost just play 500 ball, and they're going to win a division. I mean, our division is not, tight at all. Miami, of course, is in second. We'll see if the Mets make a little bit of a run. And then Philly might just surprise everybody again, like they did last year. So what do you think about the second half? Razor, what do you think about the second half in baseball. Any surprises you think coming out of the National League?
Yeah, like Doc said, the biggest thing for me to watch in the second half is this Marlins team. They're 53-39, but their run differential, they've scored 306 runs, but they've let up 391, and they still have a great record. So for me, I just want to see how their pitching's going to do, and I want to see how Miami does in the second half.
Yeah, they're an interesting team. They could be the Phillies of last year, really. The Phillies are tricky. I like this kid Sanchez. The Phillies come out. Oh, guess who the Phillies play? They stay home, and San Diego comes to town. So Philly starts with San Diego coming out. Yeah, we'll go over a couple games for tomorrow before we get out of here. But yeah, the Marlins could be that kind of team. How about you, Doc?
I'm watching the Diamondbacks.
They did so good for me this
I think
year.
their starting rotation, they got nice support out of Henry. He's like the 4 guy, and then Gallen and Merrill. See, here's the thing: Merrill is on the DL right now, right? So Gallen, Merrill, and Ryan Nelson. He's had splits on the year. So, but we talked about the other surprise team was the Reds. When we're looking at the Reds' pitching staff, their top 5, 6 guys, they all have basically losing records. It's the guys that are deeper. I call them prospects. They're ranking pitchers. So they got good support on the bottom half of their lineup. If the Reds' top half decide to start producing a little bit, they're going to be dangerous going forward. So in the National League, I'm probably looking at the Reds and the D-backs, to maybe carry the torch for the Central and the Reds, and then the D-backs maybe sneak into the playoffs, as a wild card, because the Dodgers are going to make their move eventually. And usually at the end of the season is either the Rockies or the D-backs that try to spoil somebody's way to get in, like the Giants or the Padres. But I don't think we're worried about the Padres this year. So I think somebody's going to try to play a spoiler to take because they got a lot of offense. Arizona, they can score. They score runs. They're a lot better at home.
Yeah,
their splits are decent. So
yeah, I totally forgot about them. You're 100% right. I totally left them out, man.
And they've been steady all year. They've been like Baltimore, like you said. Pittsburgh was like Baltimore, but I think the D-backs are a little bit more like Baltimore because they've been a little more steady. They've been holding their own all season long. They started hot, and they never really took the big dive yet. So we'll see how it goes. But the big piece of their puzzles is Kelly. He's their number 2 guy, so he's gonna have to stay healthy, or they're gonna have to get him back on the good side of things. And then on the American League. I don't know. That East always shapes up a little tight. I don't give 2 shits about the Central. And the West, I think the West is going to be a runaway over there. So probably the East, we get like 2, 3 teams out of East. Maybe like Connor says, maybe Baltimore kind of, holds it up because there's not much separating. Like you were saying, the Yankees are 1 game out of the wild card, but they're 1 game out of the basement too. So
right,
that's
they're
how
right
it is.
there.
They all got winning records over there. So it's probably if it keeps going like it is, you'll probably get all your wild cards out of the East, and then then it's game on. But I'm not going to pick anybody out of the Central. Probably your AL champ will come out of the East. I'm not going to say the Yankees because they disappoint me every year. So I'm going to take a wild card this year. I'm going to be cheering for the O's. I hope or the Rays, one of the 2. But I'll be at heart. I'll be cheering for the Rays. Because I like the way they play ball, and I like the way Baltimore plays ball too. So I'll be cheering for the Rays and the O's.
Yeah,
and I'm a big Yankee fan too, by the way. But I can't stand Aaron Boone.
That American League East this year, as of 2 weeks ago, this stat was there. I didn't check it the last 2 weeks, but they had the most wins non-division of any team. So all the AL East teams were beating the other divisions. Like it was like a big number. They were really knocking them dead, man. Shout out to LJ from H-Town. What's up, LJ? Thanks for stopping in. He likes the Marlins too. Yeah, the Marlins have been playing well. Like again, did they got the pitching to hold up? We'll see. It's going to be exciting coming out. Mr. ConorMac. Yeah. Second half.
Yeah, we'll get to the games, I think, going forward. Let's go on the Marlins, though. When we get to it, it's Orioles. I think that's a good game tomorrow.
What a series, man. Miami at Baltimore. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on Perez kind of them lowering him with his innings, the whole send to the minors, how much will the second half, and then Sandy's kind of turned it around. He's looked a little bit better, a tad bit, because he's just been so bad, which was just a head scratcher. And I thought he has arm problems, but he's looked better. Does he look good tomorrow and kind of going forward? I think that's key for this Marlins team, because in the end, I think they're a 500 team. I mean, if they end up, around this 14 games over 500, I'd be shocked, because I think the Phillies, even the Mets, who have been god awful, as you know, Dommy, I think they're a little bit better, and they're at least a 500 team where they're down. The Central, the Reds, it's just
they don't have the
ugly.
pitching to hold up the Reds, unfortunately. I'm not sure what Ashcraft is yet. He came back a little bit strong. I know he was hurt. They don't have the pitching. I really don't. I feel that's how I feel.
Yeah, they have Abbott, the young lefty.
He's
that's
good. Yeah, he's
good. And they have a few others, but I don't think they're ready. Yeah, the Cubs, I heard they want to be buyers, but they ended up 5 games back when, they kind of started out hot, fizzled.
Yes.
The Brewers, I just don't think I think they're a 500 team. Let's get to the West. The Dodgers, I think, win it, and they have flaws, obviously. The D-backs, though, I think they slip a little bit, and I love this team. I love their over 76.5. We talked about the Orioles to start the year. D-backs, I thought they were going to win at least 80 games. And I still do think they do, but I think they might slip a little bit. And these pesky Giants, I don't know what to make of them.
I don't know what to make of them. That's right.
Yes, there you go.
I don't know what
Padres,
to make of that team.
I don't think they're very good, but I wouldn't be shocked if they went on a run. There in the American League, the Central, like Doc talked about, I don't even give 2 shits about. AL East, they all beat up on each other. And the O's are only 2 games back of the Rays. I think that all could get interesting as the last place Red Sox are 5 games over. And the Mariners, they look better. It's good to see like Kirby, Gilbert, these guys keep pitching well. They could make a move.
Something about that team. I like that team. Sneaky team for me.
They got a hit.
Sneaky team for me. They got a hit. They got a hit.
If they could hit, that offense comes alive a little bit. I think
they're better than the Guardians. Last year they were both together. Everybody's talking Mariners, Guardians. I think they're better than the Guardians. But I like the Mariners. I do well with them, but I win a lot of unders with them. As you said, they got to learn how to hit. But
they're
as far as
good
that's
concerned,
concerned,
and last year they were really good to the under. I still think the Astros, in the end, well, I don't think they're as good as the last few years and win the World Series. I think they win that division. And the Rangers probably make the playoffs, but that's a good one to see with the Rangers, the pitching.
It's going to be an interesting deadline. Was it August 1st is the deadline?
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple pitches they're talking about are up. As a matter of fact, I heard a couple from the White Sox might be up for on the trading block.
Giolito.
We'll see what happens. The big news today in New York on sports radio was that the whole Buster Only Ohtani thing, but it also was talk about Juan Soto and how the Yankees should go after a Soto more than an Ohtani because of the fielding and But could you imagine the Yankees having Cole and Ohtani on the pitching staff? That's nothing to. It's a little interesting, Like I said before, I'm not a whole big fan of the whole thing with him, but we'll see what happens. As far as I'm concerned, yes, I think the Mets are going to make a decent run, and they're just going to tire themselves out. They're going to get everybody excited, and then they're going to, do the old shoot their load early, Razor. You know what I mean? And that's what happens with teams like this that are supposed to, 100-game winning team last year, and they come out like this. They had a June that is just unbelievable how bad. Now that in July they've been playing pretty good, but this last series that they lost, I think was a big dagger. That we lost that series. We can't beat the Padres no matter what. Musgrove owns us every time he pitches against us. It's just brutal. So we'll see what happens.
And Dom, I was dead wrong with the Mets. When I did with Sharpie, I talked about I had the O's and D-backs. I was like, they went over. It was, I think, 94.5. The Mets. I was like, they're going to get over it. This team is loaded, and I've been horrible with that. So I was on the Mets. They were horrible.
I'll tell you, unbelievable.
So that was one I was way off.
unbelievable. A couple of things I found out, and we'll just go over tomorrow's games a little bit, and we'll get out of
Okay.
here. A couple of things I found out. I looked up the for the season, first 5 innings and full game, like just different stats. One was the money line in the so like you talked about like Razor talked about his record was plus, but his units were. It kind of talks about with this. If you go by units won, the best team in baseball right now is the Cincinnati Reds. Even better than the it's the Reds, the Orioles, and the Braves as far as units won, and it just goes to show you why sometimes. And a little tip for new bettors is looking at records really doesn't tell you much. Mm-hmm. Starting pitching ERA don't tell you much, and records don't tell you much. Team ERAs tell you more than a starting pitcher ERA, that's for sure. But the Reds, you be up 18 units. Like say you put 100 every game they bet, you'd be up 18 units with almost an 18% ROI. So with the Reds, the Orioles, the Braves, and then the Diamondbacks, number 4, be up like 13 units, almost 14. Right behind them is the Marlins, and then the Rays. So just right there tells you a good enough story. Of course, the last it's not Oakland, so I'll tell you that. Who you think is the worst, the least? You lost the most amount of money on what team this year so far?
Dodgers.
Who?
Dodgers.
No.
Royals.
The Royals.
The
The Royals, you would be down almost 29 units. Then the Cardinals, then the Mets, then the Oakland, and then the Padres. The Yankees are about mid-pack, maybe a little bit lower, but the Yankees weren't too bad. Yankees gained a little bit of, the Yankees are right in the middle. As a matter of fact, you'd only be down 2 units if you bet every Yankee game this year so far.
Wow.
So that's pretty interesting, yeah. But anyhow, Mike M, what's happening? Thanks for stopping in. Look at this lineup, talking futures, yeah. So that was interesting. Like I said, man, this year we know the Braves are. I don't see any faults in the Braves. We know that the Rays they might have a little issue with their bullpen and their pitching. It's just crazy how they do things over there, and it just keeps on working. So I don't see those teams really falling out. I still think Texas will be a good team, and it's going to be interesting. Again, no really, juggernaut team. I guess you could say the Braves. If you want to say one lock team, I guess I would go with the Braves if I had to pick one. Unfortunately, that's the team I would pick to tell you the truth. But that's it for that. Tomorrow's games. Let's try to hit tomorrow's game. A lot of good series starting tomorrow. Like I said, the Dodgers are here in New York at the Mets. Cincinnati plays the Brewers. They seem to have played each other a million times over the last 2 weeks, right? Cincinnati was at Brewers. Brewers at Cincinnati. It's Miami at Baltimore, like you guys mentioned, should be a great one. D-backs at Toronto, another good one. Let's see what other ones. Padres at Phillies. Where are the Cubs versus Boston? That's a tough one. The Cardinals, man. The Cardinals are a weird team, man. They got the bat. Even in that bad losing streak, they were winning. They were scoring a lot of runs, and they were losing big. They were losing 9-6, 8-5. They were losing crazy number of games. It's just but I don't know why they keep on pitching Steven Matz. They keep on putting him out there. He got hurt. He came back and pitched another bomb. That team.
He's been all right out of the pen, but yeah.
Out of the pen, he's been all right. Yeah. Talk about surprising teams. If I just thought of it. The Cardinals, I thought were going to do a lot better this year than they have. Maybe their catcher not being there no more. That battery maybe screwed them up a little bit more than we thought. But anyhow, tomorrow's games. Did you look at any, Connor? That anything jumped out at your eye for tomorrow?
Yeah, we talked about the O's and Marlins. We got to look at a ton more, but Yankees and Rockies, Rodon, was his second
Rodon's
start.
pitching tomorrow. Yep.
Yeah, in Colorado, this total's 11.5. I'm going to look at that total there. How about we just mentioned the Mariners, Castillo, back at home. His total's only 7, but
Whole number, yeah.
I'm gonna look at Rodriguez here at the Tigers as a dog. I've already been kind of looking at that plus 165. Yeah, the Mets at home. I'm gonna look into that more. But yeah, great series. Brewers, Reds. That one that totals 10. Burns and Ashcraft. White Sox, Kopech, Morton, that totals 9, and they're huge favorites. Guardians at the Rangers. What do we see from John Gray, who's been really, really good at some bad blow-ups, kind of a couple bad starts before the break? We get a little value here with the Guardians, maybe. So, yeah. And the Phillies. I know Sanchez is on the mound.
I like
Darvish.
him.
I like the Phillies a little bit
me
tomorrow.
Too.
With Darvish on the road, he's just gotten hit hard, and I got to run through all the some of the stats and numbers. I want to look out at the Phillies hit off Darvish because I just don't know off the top of my head. But I think the Phillies tomorrow are solid look.
Doc, did you see anything for tomorrow? Did you look at anything?
Yeah, I was looking at that. I was looking at that Rodriguez, like Connor mentioned. I like that number. Looking towards the first 5 under in that spot there. Probably I get a 4. I don't know what it's juiced at, but if I get a 4, I'll be on that. And then the Padres and the Dick Mountain pitching for the Pirates tomorrow. Hill, you never know with the Pirates. That's an interesting game coming out.
9 too.
Yeah, sitting at 9.
Pirates are a tricky team.
When he pitches, they seem to play pretty well for some reason, the Pirates. So I got to look at the matchups for him, versus the G-men's lineup here. How the Giants hitting lefties going into the break. We'll see. Maybe a small look there on Pittsburgh, and then the other one I just got through talking about. The Rays. Against the worst team that you're burning cash if you bet against them. I know Glasnow threw a gem last out and lost to the Phillies. I think he lost like 2-1.
Yeah, he
before.
did.
So,
yes.
Maybe we see a little regression here. Maybe he gets poked and choked a little bit here by the Royals early on. We'll see if he's not as sharp coming out, and maybe take a stab with the Royals on the first 5 on the money line at a big number. So I lean with the I'll probably be on the first 5 under in that Rodriguez game. I'll probably lean or the Reds too. I think we'll see runs in that game. That number is hanging. Burns will give it up, and so
10.
will Ashcraft.
10 runs. I don't know what we get out of Ashcraft.
The lady over in that game there. I think that's a money maker there.
I'd like to see who the Toronto's pitching. They're playing Arizona. I'll
stay away from that because Toronto's been a jinx for me all season. So,
but I see Toronto putting
Arizona. They'll find a way to.
Does anybody see a pitcher for that though? I see a line. I see a minus 175 lineup, but I don't see a pitcher. How's it minus 175? They don't even know who the pitcher is.
Well, I think they're at Bassett's gonna go.
When they got listed,
Jays.
He hasn't pitched that well. Razy, you looking at anything tomorrow? What about that Philadelphia game, Razy? I kind of like that right now.
Nelson and Bassett is what they got listed.
Oh, they got that Bassett listed?
Well, it's not official, but that's expected.
I'll tell you, right now, we can still get the Phillies plus 105, Razor. I like this kid Sanchez. I think he's pitching pretty good. What do you think?
Tell you the truth, I haven't looked at anything for tomorrow yet. I'm more of I cap my horses the night before, and I do my sports in the morning.
Yeah, me too. No, me too. I do my baseball in the morning. I don't like capping the night before. Really, I don't bet many games.
To me, yeah, it's tough. I gotta look at everything. Everything.
Me too.
More and more. This is gone. I always say I find there's value. Just jump on it and I get it because the line will go. And I do that less and less, but
me too.
I will, but I like to wait now more and more.
Me too. But Razor, what do you think about that kid Sanchez in general, though? I think he's a good pitcher. I think he's coming strong.
Yeah, he should be good. I mean, we're pitching against Darvish. I don't really like going against him. He gets the National League East somehow. He owns the Mets, which I like, but then he kind of owns the Phillies as well. So it's going to be a tough matchup, but I see the line is dropping a little bit.
Yep.
So I would lean towards the Phillies as well because I would think the public's going to hammer Darvish. but I don't like him on the road either.
No, me either.
So
No,
for me, it would either be
no.
Phillies or pass.
Right.
Who's
That's a
pitching for
couple.
the Phillies tomorrow?
Sanchez,
Sanchez.
Oh,
the kid
Sanchez.
Sanchez. Yeah, yep. And with the
Christopher.
Mets, the total's 8.5. It could be that at first glance, I'm looking at it under. Verlander seems to be getting his chops back. I don't know what Urias. Listen, I could, if I had to bet that game right now, I would probably say under. But again, we have to see where it goes, where these lineups are, and it should be an interesting second half. Any books that before I just meant to ask you this guy. Any books? Do you favorite any certain sports books, like as far as maybe for baseball more than another site, or for whatever reason? Like for me, I just find that Bet Online and Bet US for me, I seem to get some really nice prices with these with these lines. I've never had a problem with a payout or anything like that. And I mean, they all suck. With the whole payout thing sucks, but that's life. I just think they're good sites. They're both offshore sites, but they're both pretty good sites, man. When it comes to baseball, anyhow. How about you, Rays? I see you use a little bit of Bet US, right?
Yeah, I use BetUS. I use Bet Online. I go to Delaware Park, and then another one I use sometimes, rarely, is Bookmaker.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Got you.
Bookmaker's an old office.
Yeah, old office. How about you, Connor?
Yeah, the offshore is Pinnacle, Bookmaker, Bet
Uh-huh.
Online. For me, for the most part, for years ago before it was Five Dimes. I thought it was one of the better.
Right.
Had never had a
Uh-huh.
problem with money there. But I'm local here because I think the lines are the best. As much as you could find
Without a
it
doubt.
there for those, the Superbook is great for me. Even Circa, stuff like that, South Point.
Gotcha.
I have William Hill too, so
Right.
it's kind of a square book. But I find certain spots it's better, especially like golf, shit like that.
So
Those
if you
things.
live there, Connor, they have apps, or do you have to go in person?
Apps, all those now. I have apps, so I don't have to go in where I used to.
That's great.
Yeah,
Doc, what do you use?
My last time out in Vegas, I was using the apps, and I would use Caesars. I use a little bit with Boyd. I used a little bit. It depends on what you want to bet, because like you said, some are square shops, some are sharp. So you probably get your better numbers, like Connor says, at Westgate and South Point. Probably have your better, bigger numbers for the bigger players. But then offshore, I said Bet Online. Then of course, you always want to deal with your favorite local too. So always check your local.
Yeah, exactly. That was great, man. Hey, Mike M put something up. He said team's first 5 totals after playing the Pirates: 10-3-1 to the over, 10-4-1. A's 2-9-1 under after Marlins. That's interesting. A couple things I tracked throughout the year. Some against the spread stuffs, like favorites and home favorites, non-division favorites, things like that. And some of them held up from the beginning of the year until now. But as of recently, the last time I looked was the first. Let me see. Where do I have these? Yeah, like the last week of June, first week of July. A couple weird little against the spread things. Road teams that were in the playoffs last year, that play a team who was not in the playoffs last year, been hitting at a 60% clip, 133 and 90. Road dogs, where the line move has been 10 cents or more, is hit 51%, right? Only 1% over 500. But if you bet all those road dogs with a line move of 10%, 10 cents or more, you'd have a 17% ROI. So it just goes to show you about dogs and stuff,
Dog
right?
money, yeah.
You'd be 1% over, a little, things like that are pretty. Non-division road favorites since last year has been a thing that's been in that 62, 65% area. It keeps on hitting. It's something I heard on VSiN like 2 years ago, and I started tracking, and it seems to have held up pretty much. Non-division favorites off a win seem to hold up. Favorites seem to win a lot, in baseball. We know that, but it just goes to show you how over 175 or so is a big winning record, but you would probably have a 2 or 3% ROI. You might be winning 70% of the games, but your return. So again, do you have that bankroll to sustain betting like that? And that's part of the name of the game. But this has been good, man. This has been fun. I appreciate everybody coming in. We're gonna do it again next month, and we're gonna gear that one towards football. Like I said, before you know it, preseason starts, NFL, college football starts. So we're gonna be the thick of things. So we'll gear the next show towards football. But this was fun. I had a lot of fun. I appreciate everybody coming on and joining me. Razor, give us a little shout out. Tell us about what's going on with you. A little self-promoting never hurts.
I appreciate it. I am going to put out 2 little futures as well. I'm going to rock with the Toronto Blue Jays plus 2,000 and also Houston Astros plus 1,000. Those are 2 futures I'm going to jump on in the second half. But I appreciate you, Dommy, and shout out to Who Bangin', if you don't mind.
Brother.
Shout out to everybody in the chat. If you haven't already, hit that like button down below, share and subscribe. Cheers to Who Bangin'.
Thank you, Razor.
Who bang?
I appreciate you coming in.
Racing with Razor, 12 o'clock.
Okay, man. Keep that horse racing alive. That's beautiful. Connor, let us know what's up with you.
Those were to win the World Series, Razor?
Yeah.
Razor, can I get 10% of that Toronto if it wins?
Yeah. I'll take 5.
I'll take 5. I'm not greedy.
Okay. We'll split it. As always, Dom, I love thanks for the invite. Anytime, I'd love to join you. I love chopping it up. Any sport, especially baseball, but I love coming on here as always. Shout out to the chat as Razor did. I can't go after him like that, and because he does it correct. But thanks for having me. Who banging? Yeah, it is. But thanks for having me as always. That's it. ConorMac picks.
Yeah, our second year. No, me and Connor inducted this last year, and we'll keep this tradition alive. I appreciate you coming in, Doc. Big Ragu 62.
Yeah, my guy. Yeah, always a pleasure to be with these 2 guys. Cross from one another on the diagonal. Connor and I, we work together a lot of times on football. Razor on occasion. Whenever we get to meet up in person, and I'll join him on some horse stuff. But I'll be back with you probably next month on the same channel, right? And then look for DJ and us to start talking football, and then we'll be right in the thick of football. Then we'll wrap up baseball. Baseball,
before you know it,
be gone before you know it. So
before you know it, man. Yeah, man, that's it.
Much love to the chat. We always get great support from everybody over the years, so we appreciate it. What everybody, what they do, and subscribe and like my man says. So appreciate you having us on today.
All right, thanks, man. And I'll be back Saturday with Light It Up, Saturday morning, 10 a.m. We'll be back for the second half of Major League Baseball. It should be a fun ride. You know where to find me. I appreciate everybody coming in. And until next time,